This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla in the 3D Security and Training Academy studios.
Colonel Alan West, in this very tumultuous time across our world, someone who has served in our military or at least has intimate knowledge of the way the military works and should work.
Sarah Palin has always been a big supporter of Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Today, we're joined by the former congressman to talk about his new position, President Obama's immigration stance, Martha McSally, ISIS, Gaza, the NAACP, Adrian Peterson, and more. A brand new Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson is coming up from Virginia, and just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman of Missouri. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. The Palin Update is sponsored by 3D Security and Training Academy. Learn more at 3dsta.com. Right now, our special guest. He is a former congressman and Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Always a pleasure to speak with him on the Palin Update. Sir, thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
So let's first talk a little bit about you. What's going on? A new gig for Alan West. I know it lit up social media the other day. A lot of congratulations and a lot of talk about what you're doing now. Can you tell our listeners?
Yeah, sure. As of the 2nd of January, I'll be taking over the reins of the National Center for Policy Analysis as their CEO, and that's located down in Dallas. So a month from today, on the 22nd of December, I'll be moving on out there to Dallas. My wife Angela's going to go out and secure a new home for us, and we still have our daughters who are senior in college and senior high school. They'll stay here and finish up, and then we'll head out.
So a really prestigious position for you. I know people spoke very highly of the organization and also of the amalgamation of you and the organization getting together. So first, congratulations on that. We know you'll do well.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, they've been around for 31 years, and so I'm very humbled and honored, and we're just looking to take it into the next level and probably extend their policy research and analysis into national security policy, as well as all the great work they do on tax, retirement, health care, monetary policy, as well as energy and environmental, which are very important up there in Alaska.
Now, we wanted to talk to you about the situation with immigration and the situation with amnesty and President Obama. Obviously, after this historic mandate of an election in the midterms that really showed the president that people are against his policies on many levels, well, he ignored it anyway, and this lawless administration continues. Here we go now again, the wielding of the executive order pen, if you will. But this time, though, something very serious when it comes to amnesty, when it comes to immigration. First off, what are your thoughts on what the president, his comments the other night on this and what he's about to do? And what do you say to the GOP, especially the newcomers coming in? What can they do, if anything?
Well, first of all, you just go back and play all the tapes of the president saying exactly he could not do this. He could not take a unilateral action by executive order in order to cease deportations. And when you look in the Constitution, in Article 1, Section 8, Clause number 4, it says very succinctly that only the Congress can make rules or laws in matters concerning naturalization. So even the president, with the deferred action that he took, the DACA Act, which basically, took care of Dreamers, that was unconstitutional. So he has followed that up as well. And, Article 2 for the executive branch does not say that, the president can take action because he's impatient or he doesn't like what Congress is doing. It's very simple. He does not have this authority. I don't know how and why anyone can try to stretch that. And so you do see a sense of an imperial action by the president. Now, what can easily be done is we need to get back to regular order now that the Republicans do have the control of the legislative branch, the House and the Senate. You have 12 appropriations bills, and we need to go back to that order that sits down and passes an appropriation bill at a time. And when we get to the Department of Homeland Security, where a lot of these actions will be falling under their purview, that's where you use the power of the purse. And so we can make sure that the priority responsibilities of the government are funded, and then we can make sure that any of these new procedures or processes that are associated with this executive action should not be funded.
It was a huge night for Republicans on election night, but there's still some races where the votes are being counted. You have this Senate runoff in Louisiana trying to unseat Mary Landrieu, and also a congressional race that I know you're interested in, Martha McSally, where they're counting the votes very close. Talk a little bit about McSally and your thoughts on her, and what do you think will go down there?
Well, look, Martha McSally has a stellar record. As you know, our Guardian Fund supported her. We supported military minority conservative candidates. And she is the right person to have at this time when we look at the focus being on how do we restore our United States military capability and capacity. She's a former A-10 pilot, and when Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel talked about canceling that program, that's a horrific decision. So she would be a much better person to have in that situation than Representative Barber, who is there basically out of the sympathy vote because he was an aide to Gabby Giffords and he was shot during that horrific incident. And I think that when you look down in Louisiana, it's pretty much so a done deal that Representative Cassidy will be the next senator because Mary Landrieu only beat him by 1 point in the jungle primary. And, Rob Maness, former United States Air Force colonel, has endorsed him and put his weight and support behind Cassidy. And so you're going to see him. He already has, in many places, like a 16-point lead. And the failure of, Miss Landrieu, Senator Landrieu, to be able to get anything done on the Keystone XL pipeline shows that, it's an ideological battle, and they have really thrown her under the bus.
We talk about candidates or incumbents that you have supported, that Governor Palin has supported. I think we know what we're going to get from them once we turn the calendar to January in Washington. But some of the other Republicans who maybe had a primary challenge because of their votes on things like Obamacare and other issues, but survived. Do you think we're going to see them learn their lesson, Colonel? Are they going to go back and say, wait a minute, the people really did speak to us here, and they told us that this wasn't, that we work for them, not the other way around? And will they come around and stand up to the administration, or will we see, again, a GOP party with leadership that really doesn't have a backbone?
Well, look, there was a reason why the GOP was given the majority in 2010 in the House and now a majority in the Senate, because the American people do not support the policies of the president that he said were on the ballot, and they want the GOP to stand up to him. And they have been given the keys to the car. And really, when you do the analysis, they've got about six months before you start to get into that presidential election cycle, and that's the critical 6 months for them to make an impact and to stand up against the president and stand up against the D.C. media establishment and what have you. And when you go back and you look at the message that the folks in Virginia sent to then House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, they have to understand that the grassroots, the ground level Americans are not happy with what is going on. They are not, and they want something different. And it wasn't so much that the GOP won, because they did not run on a national level agenda. It was the American people saying, we are rejecting the policies of this president.
Yeah, that was loud and clear, and Governor Palin pointed that out too. Yet here he goes on immigration right away, even after those results. So things you didn't see, right, with Reagan and O'Neill, even Clinton and Gingrich, but here with Obama and Boehner, it's a whole other story.
Obama didn't get the memo, I guess. And as he said the day after the election, he heard the voices of the 2/3 of the Americans that didn't vote. That was a very strange statement.
Let me ask you about the NAACP. They issued a statement the other day after the election, and they didn't mention Mia Love, who became the first black woman ever elected as a Republican into the House. And they didn't mention Tim Scott, who is the first black senator voted in the South since Reconstruction. So what do you make of that? And is this just not really a surprise because of not just groups like the NAACP, but our mainstream media, or lamestream media, as Governor Palin likes to say, and other controlled outlets? Is it just par for the course?
Well, it's not surprising. Being a black conservative, I understand exactly who they are and what they stand for. And they are really nothing but an extension of the liberal, progressive, socialist Democrat Party. And you don't expect them to recognize anyone that is achieving, that does not behold the that victimization, that welfare nanny state attitude that is really decimating and destroying the black community. And it is very abhorrent for you have these faux leaders in the black community, so quote unquote, that don't understand why would you put all of your political capital into one group. And that's exactly what they have done. And the return on investment has been horrific. But I'm telling you that you're starting to see a change in the black community because they're starting to realize the Democrat Party is not standing up for the education of their children, being school choice, charter schools, or anything other than the horrific, failing school systems that they have. They're not seeing jobs that are coming their way. And with President Obama and, signing this illegal immigration executive order, well, guess what's going to happen to the unemployment rate in the black community? So I think you're going to see something different. NAACP is not a relevant organization. Al Sharpton, no matter what he says and does, he is not a relevant figure except to those downtrodden that continue to, flock to his, empty message.
The list of failures of this administration and scandals, it's long. As you know, we'd be talking for 2 hours if we went over everything at least. But I guess the two most serious, and I know you've spoken out about both of these of late because it comes down to lives on the line, are ISIS, something that President Obama won't even say, and, of course, the situation in Gaza. And you've been very eloquent speaking about both. Can you touch on the ISIS situation, beheadings almost every week now, and still the president is talking about other issues, and also what's going on with our friends in Israel?
Well, the thing is, President Obama does not want to own up to the fact that he made a horrific decision in withdrawing completely U.S. forces in Iraq and leaving a vacuum that was filled up by the radical Islamic terrorist army called ISIS, and the fact that he only participated in 43% of his intelligence briefings, so that earlier this year when ISIS was only 1,500 to 2,000 fighters, he did nothing. He did not recognize it, did not realize it. And that is having a horrific effect on Israel. And the fact that this president, stood along with Qatar and Turkey, really supporting Hamas and trying to restrain Israel when they are horribly being, attacked. And look at what just happened recently with the attack of the rabbis, the 3 American rabbis who were praying in the synagogue. And the president really had a moral equivalency statement. And now we have John Kerry over, and it looks like we're going to surrender to Iran as far as these nuclear negotiations. So the president has taken the Middle East situation and turned it upside down. But I don't think that this is something that was done by naivete. I think that this is something that was very much so purposeful. When the president, you go back and you look at his 2009 speech that he gave at Cairo University where he asked for the Muslim Brotherhood to be front and center, I think that he's an Islamist sympathizer. And I think that deep down inside he holds an animus toward Israel and really towards Western civilization.